But I saw something begin to unravel, and that was the fact that the Copenhagen Climate Change Convention was last December, and I figured that there would be a lot of money in media for stories on climate change. Is there money in media for stories on climate change right now? No. Nope, unfortunately there's not. But last year at this time, everybody wanted climate change stories, everybody. So Kashmir is the epicenter of water for India and Pakistan. Really convenient. And I just worked my contacts. Like I found an Indian guy who was going to Kashmir with a group of scientists to measure glacier melt in the Himalayas. And again, that's just getting out in DC and making as many contacts as you can. And so I, again, put together, because to get funding from the Pulitzer Center, you have to have commitment from media organizations, and that's the difficult part. So anyways, I pitched a couple of stories to National Geographic. One on going with these group of scientists to literally hike for a week into the Himalayas. Now the reason this is interesting is Kashmir's been locked in conflict for 20 years. There were militants and mujahideen in these particular part of the mountains. Like in '97, a couple people got beheaded there. So it's not a place people have frequented often. So this is the first time that people had really gone and done like on the ground test work on glaciers. So National Geographic was interested in the story. Then the other story was on the water pollution in Kashmir, because it was part of the Silk Road. 60% of the Silk Road that came through Kashmir used to be canals and waterways. It was called the Venice of Asia, and now it's basically gone due to roads and the fact that the sewage of 1 million people in the capital city dumps into the main water supply, various things like that. So Voice of America takes a story, National Geographic takes 2 stories, Al Jazeera takes 2 stories. And then I applied to this grant at the Pulitzer Center, and I get a couple $1,000s. Like, I think it was $5,000 or $6,000, which is all I needed to buy a ticket, and you can live on, like my rent right now in Delhi is $200 a month. I mean, and a maid to cook all of your meals and clean your house is another $100 a month. So it's, things are much more affordable there. So anyways, August of 2009, I head back to Kashmir. And this time I've got funding, I've got commitments from National Geographic, from VOA, from Al Jazeera. But you can see all of the work that went into making that happen. And when I went back to Kashmir in 2009, I actually lived with the Kashmiri family that I had met in 2008. And that's another thing, is when you go and you travel, do not stay at the Marriott. Meet people on the ground, talk to people on the ground. When they say, would you like to come for chai? And you don't really want to come for chai, but you think, obviously you don't want to walk into someone's house who is going to kidnap you, but you should have enough sense to know the situation you're in. So this family I had built a rapport with, and I lived with them when I went back to Kashmir, a family of 11 Kashmiris, which is a complete anomaly in itself, and I will write a book about it one day. And the whole idea of being in Kashmir was to write feature stories. I already knew that, okay, I'm going to get this series of stories done on climate change, but then I'm going to spend my winter skiing at 14,000 feet next to the border of Pakistan. I'm going to write some killer feature stories for Time and the Wall Street Journal and do video too. And so that's what I did. I finished these stories for, on climate change, and then I went to this place called Gulmarg and spent my winter skiing. Fantastic. So something else I learned in this process is you need to have a bottom line. When you're going to do a series of stories, like let's say Time gives you $1,000 a video. Voice of America gives you $700 a video. And the Wall Street Journal gives you about $2,400 for a package. And you can actually do them all 3. You just have to make them different enough. And so that's what I did, is I sold it to 3 different clients. And I totally used different characters. It was all different stories, and it was a lot of work. But I made my bottom line. I covered my expenses and then some. If I was just doing a one-off a story for $1,000, then I'm not really covering my expenses. So the more you're in this field, you'll realize, okay, if I'm going to be a freelancer and I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this story, how many different people can I sell it to?